Alright, we're going to go over a skill that's important for chemistry, which is called counting atoms. Okay, so what we're trying to do when we're counting atoms, we're trying to look at something like this, a complex molecular formula, and we're trying to figure out how many atoms we have of each. Okay, so we're going to start very simple and work from there. So let's say I have a simple compound such as I just have something that says Ba, which stands for barium, right? That just means I have one barium molecule. In other words, I have one barium molecule. If I have something that looks like this, Cl2, it has this, what we call a subscript. That means I have two chlorine molecules. Okay, so there's kind of like an invisible one in this one. So that would look like I would have a Cl attached to another chlorine molecule. Okay. All right, so what if we have something a little bit more complex? Let's say we have H2O, which looks like, so we have H2O. So water molecule, you don't have to know why, but water molecule, we have an oxygen, and we have two hydrogens connected to it, right? So it would look like that, two hydrogens and one oxygen. All right, what if I were to put a 2 in front of this? So if I put a 2, that's what I call a coefficient. It goes in front of this. This 2 applies to everything because we have two H2O molecules. In other words, we have two water molecules. So I have one water molecule here and one here. Okay? So if we're counting the atoms in this, we have hydrogen. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 hydrogen. Okay? Oxygen. Well, we have oxygen. We have 1, 2, just two oxygen. Okay? So how do we figure this out without having to draw it every time? Well, if you look here, this 2 just applies to everything. So you can think about this as being in brackets. And this 2 would be 2 times 2 would give me 4. 2 times that invisible 1 here, you can put a 1, gives me 2. Okay? Then the last thing you're going to see is you're going to see subscripts in or on brackets. Okay, let me show you guys an example of that. So let's say we have Ca3 parentheses PO4 2. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and list every atom we have. So in this case, we have calcium. Okay, we have phosphorus, and we have oxygen. So how do I know that this isn't a PO? How do I know it's not together? Well, if they're capitalized, then they are separate elements. Okay, if this would have been big P, little o, then it would have been polonium, and it actually would have been together. So when they are capitalized, they are actually separate. Okay, so they're different molecules. All right, so I have three calcium. Phosphorus. Because phosphorus is in parentheses, you distribute this 2 to this and to this. Okay, so there's an invisible 1 here, so 2 times 1 is going to give me 2. 2 times 4 will give me 8. And that's how many we have of that compound. Okay, so let's work through some more examples. So let's say I have 3 Na2 SO4. All right, so in this example, I have, this 3 applies to everything, remember. So I have sodium, I have sulfur. These are different because that's a capital O, so that must be oxygen, sulfur, oxygen. All right, so I have 2 times 3 gives me 6. 2 times 1. Remember, this 4 only applies to the oxygen because there's no bracket. So there's an invisible 1 here. So 1, you can put this like this if it helps. 1 times 3 gives me 3. And then last of all, 4 times 3. So I distribute this to every single one. 12. And that is it. Okay? I'm going to work through one more example with you. Let's do one more example here. So the last example we're going to do is we have 4 Pb, that's lead, NO3, 2. Okay? So first let's list our elements. So you see how this is lowercase? That means they're together. They're one compound. Pb, N, and O. Alrighty. So this 2 doesn't apply to this because the 2 only applies to the parentheses. So there's an invisible 1 here. You can draw the brackets if you feel like it's helpful. So 4 applies to that. So I have 4 lead. Okay. This 2 applies to this nitrogen. So I have 2 nitrogens times 4 of these compounds. So 2 times 4 gives me 8. Okay. Now the oxygen is going to be a little bit trickier, right? Because we have this times this gives us, if we go 2 times 3 would give us 6 times, we have 4 of these, so it would be 4 times 6 would give us 24. Okay. And that's it. So for your worksheet, you're going to have a worksheet that looks like this. All you have to do is you have to list the atom and how many we have. So for example, here, you can write it all out or you can just write the symbol. Here we have potassium, carbon, and oxygen, and you would write how many you have of each. The total part, it's not too important. You can do that, but you don't have to do that. Okay?